Right, so TWKOM podcast, it's been a while. It's been far too fucking long, to be honest, and that is 100% on me. I'll hold my hand up and say that life's got a wee bit fucking... It's been busy. We've moved house, we've been away on a couple of holidays, we've been on festivals and stuff, and it's just prevented me from going out to the gigs and stuff, and so it just felt a bit... Can't really do a podcast about the local scene if I haven't been going out and stuff, so... We're back anyway. This is episode something or other. Might even just relabel this as episode 1 again. So welcome back and thanks for coming on. Mark, Claire, Phil. I'm sure everyone's familiar with you guys at this stage if they've been watching the podcast. We're going to do a big roundup of the year just because there's no point trying to home in on anything specifically since it's been such a long time since we've done this. And fuck it, let's just talk shit about the year. So straight in, gigs, festivals, gigstavals,
everything in
live
between.
events. I think between us all, we've seen quite a bit this year. Let's talk about some highlights.
I think Mark's been the MVP on the local scene.
I think I've been working, sleeping, and going to gigs all year.
Still hammering at it. Fair play to you. Mark, then, anything in particular this year that really jumps out as like that was a fucking incredible gig?
To be fair, there's so many, because the thing is, we had 2 years of like COVID lockdowns, no gigs. A lot of that was just spent when our gigs coming back, when we gonna be able to go to gigs again and stuff. And the year that we've had, just the sheer amount of stuff that's happened. And I had a few like firsts, like milestones and stuff, like first Siege, first Bloodstock, stuff like that. So it's just been an unbelievable year.
Fucking Bloodstock must have been a big one then.
It was insane.
What do you reckon? Enjoy it?
I loved it. It was like heaven on earth, but at the same time it was like hell on earth because the sun was literally trying to fry it. Like it was like the English heat wave, 30 degrees and stuff.
The sun was trying to kill you.
Literally. I mean, well, the amount of people leaving in even stretcher beds and stuff with heat stroke, people leaving early, it was fucking hectic. And trying to stay out circle pits, mosh pits all day in it was a struggle. It was like an endurance test almost, but it was worth it. It was just that fucking good.
Did you still get to see all the bands you wanted to see, or did you miss things?
There was the Saturday and the Sunday, there was some earlier bands I wanted to see. Like one in particular was Guilt Trip that supported Malevolence in the Limelight, and they were amazing. So it was like they're playing, can't wait to see them. But just, I think I went too hard on the first day, and then with the heat, with the drinking, everything, whatever time I got to bed at, I woke up and was just like, no, I need an hour or two, another nap or whatever.
We were at Boomtown that same weekend, and you're right. I mean, the heat was fucking incredible.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that as an incredible good. It was just fucking unprecedented. I don't think I've experienced weather like that in the UK before.
I definitely haven't.
Let's not go into a discussion about global warming, like. But,
and I think
there's enough bands sing song about that as it is without us sitting here talking about it. But I don't know. I still as bad as hot as it was, as I don't want to say unbearable because I wouldn't say it was quite unbearable, but it was tough going. I'd take that over wind and rain any day of the week.
100%.
I think Boomtown maybe coped with it a bit better than what I heard. Like Bloodstock, I think really struggled with cover.
Yeah.
Boomtown basically armed most of their crew and like let everyone in with like water pistols and super soakers. So
nice.
You were walking around and you were kind of getting drenched, or you were standing at the main stages and people were walking around and soaking you. And that, I think that definitely.
I think the amount of indoor stages that Boomtown has as well. If you need to get out of the sun, you can. But even, I mean, it was kind of funny because like if you looked at like the main stage and stuff, you'd have these like big structures that were holding the speakers and whatnot, and you just see like maybe a triangle of shade. Right?
Yeah.
And you just get like people shoved into this little triangle of shade, and as the day moved on, everyone was like shuffling along.
No, literally like Bloodstock was the same. It's like they do call it Bloodstock open air. So
I do think festival promoters need to understand that potentially going forward, we're going to have problems like that with the heat, and they need to provide more
Shade.
like is it big tarps and stuff you would call them? You know, I don't imagine it'd be too expensive to fire a load of stuff like that around, you know, spots around that,
No,
Water
and
points,
and give
more
people
water points.
more water points, definitely stuff like that.
I think it is something that they are going to like look into more going forward. Like, I assume
now,
next
no
year,
doubt, sod's law. They'll go and spend a fuckload of money on that for next year,
and then there'll be rain.
and then it'll just rain all weekend.
Well, I mean, if there's cover, you know, cover still helps in the rain.
True.
True.
Fair point. Yeah. But Bloodstock, good weekend then. Yeah.
It was unbelievable.
Tell me this: would you now be like, I need to go back to Bloodstock, or is it more of a that was a great festival experience? I want to go and see more festivals in different places.
A bit of both.
Yeah.
So like in terms of the atmosphere, the crowd, everything, I did love it. The lineup next year isn't as appealing for me. I would still go for everything else other than the bands, but I'm wanting to experience other festivals and just Boomtown and just do a bit more traveling in general, like just going about Europe and stuff. So it's a toss up at the minute.
So I always have a great time at Bloodstock. Always really do. To me, it's a bit samey every year in that they never like mix up even something simple like the layout or whatever. You know, it always feels like you're back at the same place, and I know a lot of people really like that.
Like the
there's
familiarity.
there's comfort in familiarity, but I don't know. I like seeing new things and different things. And I remember like I used to go to Download quite regularly way back about 10 to 15 years ago, and they would mix up the site layout each year. And to me that was interesting because your memories were a bit more unique to each year because it felt slightly different. You know?
Yeah, I've never been to Download. I assume it's very flat, so they're able to do
Yeah,
that. Oh no?
no.
Oh.
Even the main, like running down onto the main stage.
Because this was going to say, like,
big
with
Download.
Bloodstock, like, the main stage is at the bottom of a hill, essentially, you know, and then that's the biggest, like, widest area in those grounds, so they might be limited in what they can do in terms of that.
The lineup for next year, now I've always criticised Bloodstock as being a wee bit a foot and a half in the past, you know, big old bands, legendary bands, you know, putting Megadeth way up the bill, stuff like that. It's like, come on, there's new bands coming. See, for me personally, I think next year looks fucking great, and it seems to be the first year that Bloodstock are going, let's do something for the younger folk, for the younger metalers, for the new generation of metalheads coming up, having stuff like Killswitch headline.
I'm gonna say to you, like, Killswitch, it's like, I hate to break it to you, but you know,
They're not for young people.
well, I mean, relatively speaking, compared to something like Merciful Fate or Alice Cooper or King Diamond, you know, it's definitely
younger people.
younger.
On the flip side, though, they do have Megadeth again.
They do, but they've got Knocked Loose, they've got Gatecreeper.
They're the two that were the most appealing for me, like, because they were ones that were announced on the final day, you know, on the screens. And as soon as I saw Gatecreeper and Knocked Loose, because I saw Gatecreeper in Voodoo not too long before, I was just like, I'm going to Bloodstock again. But then the more the announcements came out, it was just a kind of like, it's not that it's a bad lineup, it's just not for me per se, you know.
And then if you look at the poster at the minute, there's one band right down at the very bottom, right over to the
I know
edge,
you're gonna say.
that probably no one gives a fuck about or has even heard about. But Good Lax are playing Bloodstock next year, and I fucking love that band. Like,
I
just
want
think
to
they're
see the look
ridiculously
on the
good.
face of the old, you know, the old school metaler that, you know, is just into those old school bands and is very elitist. And then to see Great Lax walk on stage in their bring their portally, everyone whipping out toilets as they stand on toilet brushes running round, and as they stand and start, you know, squealing and
It just
singing
feels
and
like
using their butt to sing into the microphone.
there's gonna be what's that festival where they book all the gore grind bands and stuff.
Extreme.
Obscene Extreme Fest.
Yeah.
It feels like there's gonna be just a tiny little smidgen of Obscene Extreme at a Bloodstock next year, and if I don't go, I'll be gutted about missing that. I really will. But it's every year, Bloodstock, Boomtown, still the same weekend, and I'm just, it's really hard for me not to go to Boomtown. It's just the best festival I've ever experienced in my life.
From what I've heard from the two of you and other people, like, I'm very close to going to Boomtown next year.
Evan from the Metal Cell podcast is planning to go to Boomtown next year, so shout out to Evan and possibly see you there. Who knows?
I think there's a couple like in that Bloodstock lineup, I was actually really pleased to see Dead Label get a main stage slot as well. Like,
that surprised me. Yeah, I'd seen they were announced for it, and then someone else said to me like it's main stage, and I'm like, fucking hell,
incredible.
fair play,
Like, I mean,
fair play.
it's fair enough. And actually, we haven't seen Dead Label since COVID. Like, you know, so
No.
we know they haven't come up to Belfast. So come up to Belfast, please, if you would.
Oddly enough, the last time I seen Dead Label was at Boomtown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So no, I'd love to see them again. And certainly like they put out a video for our RED or Red, the sort of latest single there. And they like the video for it. They just seem to have like the best time on tour, doing the festivals during the summer there, and they seem to get the crowds. And like the you know, again, it's probably a band that, you know, people at these festivals aren't like massively familiar with, but they stopped by and they stayed, and like some of the Wall of Deaths and stuff that they were getting were just class.
They always
They love
encourage
it,
that.
yeah.
Like,
And it's you know, it's brilliant for them to sort of, you know, get that level of recognition as a bloody good festival band, you know.
yeah.
Fair play to them.
Right. Well, while we're talking about festivals, I mean, briefly we'll talk about Boomtown. I know that most of the people tuning into this podcast probably aren't keen on that, because a lot of it's, you know, drum and bass and ska and reggae and stuff that, well, it's not metal basically.
But it's still good.
But there's some there. There's some heavy bands play there.
I mean, Eric. I mean, that was in the past. Eric would have had its full stage.
Mm-hmm.
This year they didn't. They
Missed
took. They had one day takeover on the. I forgot the name of the stage. So that was a wee bit disappointing. But there was still that stage that weekend. There was.
See,
still,
Grove Street Families.
Yeah.
Had a wee bit of a mosh and really
two-stepped.
enjoyed that. Did had a wee dance.
You were at death's door and you're like,
it was
I
kind of
can't,
weird
I can't,
because
and immediately first thing I just turned around and there you are, just two-stepping your wee heart out.
I had to dig deep. The thing is though, because it's Boomtown and because it's not like a lot of other festivals, there was like 2 or 3 other guys next to me and they were two-stepping and stuff and dancing away to the Grove Street Families, and I was like, let's fucking go for it, because there's a wee bit of a crowd here that knows the crack with this kind of music. But literally right behind me was a family with like 2 young kids. And I was like, yeah, I'm gonna dance, but I'm not gonna go too nuts because I don't want to end up yeeting some child across the tent. You know what I mean? Yeah, Boomtown was great. We've seen Bob Villain, which I think we'll end up talking about. We've seen him play twice in the one day. I'm trying to think what other sort of heavy music was seen.
Nova Twins.
Nova Twins was seen, which is kind of like fuzzy rock. Modern fuzzy rock. I really like them,
and they're playing OES Centre in February,
yeah,
so I'm looking forward to that one.
Definitely worth seeing. I can't think off the top of my head who else was seen at Boomtown that would have been
there definitely
worth covering, but there was lots there. The thing about Boomtown is sometimes you'll go into a tent, you'll sit there and you'll watch a band and you'll go, fuck, they're really good, but there's so much going on that you don't remember it and you don't necessarily go and listen to them afterwards and stuff.
And the thing is, if you go into something you don't like it, you can just instantly move on and find something else. And
there's something like 60 stages at the festival, so
that's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another big highlight, again, talking about festivals. In fact, I would say my highlight of the year, without any shadow of a doubt, was Outbreak Fest. If anyone doesn't know about Outbreak Fest, Outbreak started, and I've said this before, if you're going to put on a festival, start small and build it up, rather than these idiots who try to put on these massive festivals on first go. Outbreak did start really, really small. If you look through YouTube, you'll find videos and sets of people playing it, and it used to be maybe 400 people. Wee room, load of hardcore bands, people going nuts. This year they went big. They got to the stage where they could go really big. They
was it 5,000 to 6,000?
I think it was 6,000. Yeah, and it was Bowler's Exhibition Centre in Manchester. It was massive. The lineup was absolutely incredible. Knocked Loose, Turnstile, Terror were there, Malevolence were there. Guys from Belfast. Last Wishes played one of the stages, and they were fucking brilliant. Wee band called High Vis that I love, which is kind of like, the only way I could describe it is like working class indie hardcore, but I think they're fucking outstanding. The whole thing, and I came away saying this, and this might sound a wee bit sort of melodramatic, I came away from that weekend feeling like I'd witnessed and experienced part of musical history, something that had never happened before in the UK. It was without a doubt the biggest hardcore event in the UK
That's
ever.
See,
Scott Fogel from Terror stood on stage and just went, "This is beautiful. This is beautiful."
we
and
play
it was.
hardcore. We don't play to these crowds that often, and that's
Yeah.
I think that was the beautiful thing in a way. It's like because we've been going to hardcore shows around the UK for maybe 10 years now. Like we've seen Terror play Leeds with, was there even 100 people there?
Mm-hmm.
You know, we have seen all these bands. We have went to hardcore shows and there has been no one there, and then to turn up and have 6,000 people watching bands that you've seen play to no one,
Yeah.
and everyone going just nuts, just constant stage diving and two-step and like
Cool thing about it as well was they had no barrier. Now you don't get that. Well, you might get it at the smaller shows in the UK.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, if you're into hardcore, you'll have watched 856 videos and stuff on YouTube, and you'll have seen this constant stream of kids getting up stage, running across, Supermaning off a stage, backflipping off the stage, complete madness. That was there in an absolute abundance. It's from the first riff of Year of the Knife was the first band
They were
on the
amazing.
Friday. Absolutely great. And as soon as they played the first riff, it just kicked off, and it was relentless the entire weekend. I've talked in this podcast about one of my biggest issues with metal is the whole standing with a beer with a sour bake, watching a band, and then walking out and going, "That was amazing." This was at the opposite end of the spectrum to that. It just, everyone kicked off. They had a system whereby the way in which they got the no barrier in the low stage was you had to sign a disclaimer, and if you signed the disclaimer, you got a gold band, and the first half of the arena was fenced off, and you had to show your band to get in.
Okay.
Right? So if you were in there and something happened to you, you just have to accept that this is experience. I know there's a big discussion to be had about what goes on at hardcore shows, and don't want to get into that. But that's how they got around it, and it fucking worked. It worked so well.
Yeah, it's a good way of doing it.
But what you're saying is, you know, the things that are going on. I mean, the fact is, for that amount of people, the crowd were really like well behaved. Like there was no crowd killing. There was no one there really being. There might have been a wee bit, but
Is there
it
no
wasn't.
crowd killing?
Not the people.
All right, Matthew, if you're watching this.
Well, I mean, there was. But there was no one. It wasn't like the
I know
vibe
what you
wasn't
mean.
bad.
I know what you mean.
And
It
the
was-
people that got carted out in stretchers were the people that had got up on stage and flung themselves off and landed on their own heads. You know, it was.
Yeah.
Which-
Which could happen at metal gigs. It's,
Yeah.
So
Just comes with the territory, basically.
absolutely brilliant, though. Phil, did you hit any festivals?
Only
this-
festival I was at this year was Siege.
Siege.
Yeah, it was only one I managed to get to. I was spending money in other places this year, unfortunately. Well, I say unfortunately, but I was just spending it elsewhere. But yeah, no, but, you know, Siege was there, and that's first time. Look, you know, we all went to Siege. And,
We all went to Siege all for the first time.
Yeah.
and it was to be honest with you, I just you can see why people are pretty, I think, you know, infatuated by it, and it's a big event on the calendar, you know, mainly just because like it is just a celebration of pretty much the best of Irish metal,
Yeah.
with a couple of wee bits, you know, surprises thrown in there, a few European acts, English acts, etc.
Conjurer.
You know, yeah, Conjurer specifically, you know, who were just so good. I think I was quite happy there.
Blind River
Blind
as
River,
well
yeah.
were a band that I had checked out before going down and went, no, well, that's not my thing at all.
Oh,
I caught a bit of them and was just like,
They were really good.
these
That's
guys are
the-
great.
that's the
Real
band.
good attitude on stage.
I embarrassed myself at because I went to James after and went, here, they were so much better than I thought they'd be. And James was like, and this is the guitar. So he's like, oh, thanks. It was like,
Yeah.
I missed
oops.
them. I'm pretty sure I gave myself a concussion during Elder Druid
Right,
because the
as you
stage was taller than I expected, and they had like the speakers sort of, you know, set up here with an empty space here, and I was just headbanging and going nuts, and I think I just full pelt headbutt the stage. You know, finished the set and everything, but had to just go to the smoking area and just sit down for like an hour or two just to
We've all
kind
been
of
there. We've all
Yeah.
been there. We've all.
Recenter yourself.
exactly.
Try to find
Let your
chakra.
chakras realign.
Get your chakras in, yeah.
Fairly certain I did that in the day. I was headbanging and headbutted the speaker. Yeah.
Yeah, the venue they have, Dolan's, I thought was something else. Like they're so lucky to have somewhere. I can't think of anywhere in Belfast. I can't think of anywhere in Dublin that I'm familiar with where you could pull that off.
No.
Yeah.
Three stages for a weekender.
with no overlap or anything. Like they like it was perfect. It's a perfect place for that kind of thing, and you know, I'm a wee bit jealous that there isn't something like that. You know,
I would
And
love
you could
the
couldn't
closest
build it better.
the closest we've had in Belfast is whenever the Distortion Project used to put on 3-room shows across the Limelight. So
Yeah.
you would have Katie's Bar, Limelight 1, Limelight 2, or Spring and Airbreak as it used to be called. I think, no one's told me this, but I get the impression that putting on stuff like that's just too expensive, too risky.
Yeah, especially these days as well.
It may not necessarily pay off, so I get why they don't happen there. But it sort of reminded me of years and years ago. I used to go to a club in Belfast called Vico's, which had 3 floors. So you'd have drum and bass on one floor, techno on one floor, and hip hop on another. And it was great, you know, just kind of bouncing from one and having a selection and choice. And if you're watching, I was going to say watching a band or watching a DJ or whatever, if the music wasn't to your liking, you could kind of
Go
slide
somewhere else.
off.
Yeah.
And not just that, not only do they have the 3 rooms for all those bands to play, they have a really, really good sort of outdoor area for like socialising and just chilling and catching up with people. Because there's so many gigs I go to and so many people I know from gigs, but you don't get a real good opportunity to talk to them. You go down to a gig and you maybe catch them for a wee bit in between a band, but then the next band comes on, you're rushing in.
Yeah.
That big open area, I thought that was class. Really, really like that.
Yeah, you actually couldn't build it any better. Like you just couldn't. And you know, going down, catching up with, you know, Evan, Richie, and sort of all these people, and you know that you only see once in a while.
Exactly.
And, you know, and it's always at a gig for a flitting moment. But yeah, no, like I was very impressed by the setup, and you know, I suppose it's always a good opportunity if you're, you know, going to see Conjure. Like whenever they were announced, like fucking shot myself. I just was like, oh my god, Conjure. You know, like some absolutely stellar sets from, you know, all of, you know, our guys that set, you know, went down. So you know, unreal set by Lockhorns, by Survivalist, you know, Elder Druid, Whopped Out. Maybe I don't want to use the Whopped Out, but Whopped Out. They Whopped Out Armada for the first time, and it just was a sonic fucking you know, assault on your senses. Like that's such a good song.
Yeah.
You know, and it was great to sort of see all that kind of stuff too. So yeah, no, I was very, very happy with Siege. Apart from maybe one minor gripe, which is
I think I know where you're going with this.
minor gripe of just, you know, absolutely no moshing under any circumstances, and getting like I got half trailed out at a point in time for
enthusiastically punching the air,
enthusiastically, you know, supporting a band. Which kind of like it was a bit much, but I kind of understand obviously that they've had problems with that, but again, you know, is there a disclaimer to be signed somewhere?
I mean, like, I suppose we've just talked about how Outbreak have got round that route, you know. It was very
to me, the thing about it was I get it. Like, from what I understand, they've had, I don't want to go into details because I don't know all the details and I don't want to get anything wrong, but they've had issues in the past with motion, which escalated. That's fine, but if that's your policy, if you're gonna say, you know, everyone just needs to chill the fuck out and just kind of stay calm and watch the bands, don't put hardcore bands. Like, don't put Baylor on in front of a crowd that aren't allowed to give it rice. That's to me. There's to me
your black metal or your death metal, or people will just stand
Doom, like Doom is part. There was a couple of Doom bands played, and they were absolutely perfect for it because it is that sort of, you know, just fall into a little groove and kind of enjoy the gig and sip a beer while you're watching the bands. But putting Baylor in front of a crowd, where if they, I mean, I didn't mosh to Baylor. I was screaming my lungs out and I was fist pumping pretty aggressively, and I wouldn't say I was dragged out. I was escorted out of the main room by 2 security and told that I needed to calm it down. And I went back in, and then it was kind of like this. It's just taking the edge off this. This just isn't as fun anymore when I have to be constantly conscious of what I'm doing, despite the fact that I wasn't doing anything overly aggressive. I wasn't hardcore dancing, I wasn't swinging my arms about, I wasn't doing anything stupid. I was literally just singing and fist pumping and a bit of head banging,
Like I said, the Malevolence show a few weeks later would have been a wee bit of an interesting one.
I'd heard about that. We got speaking to the Malevolence guys in Dublin. They were told 10 minutes before they went on stage that no moshing in this room, and it's like, who's booking Malevolence and putting them in front of a crowd that aren't allowed to mosh? It's just, there's a massive disconnect there between the understanding of what happens at these gigs and what bands you're booking. And I maybe I'm being too harsh to criticise that, but I'm just being honest and just giving my honest opinion, because that's what we do in this podcast. So
it impacts how much you enjoy it.
It does.
It really does. It really does. Yeah.
What I will say, because obviously it was first Siege and I'd heard about Siege a lot and couldn't wait to go and everything else. When I found that out, I was, obviously fucking disappointed, because like mosh pits are my happy place. Like I just love moshing.
Yeah. Your wee face last night was so happy.
But I will say, like, as much as I hated it, and I kind of, I was playing a bit with the bouncers. I kept pretending the mosh and just keeping them. But as much as I hated that one thing, it didn't ruin the experience. Like, it wasn't enough to detract from
without a doubt,
overall.
I've still great memories of going down to Limerick. The fact that we all went down as a group was really good crack. I mean, one of my main memories of going to Siege was getting something like 20 cans of beer taken off me by the staff
at the train.
By the staff in the train, and it was like, basically, whenever I go places, I like to have a beer while I'm traveling. So I thought I'd get a load of beers to the train. I thought the worst thing that could happen would be told, you can't drink in the train. Don't open those.
Don't open it, keep it with you.
Which would have been fine, no issue with that. If you're not allowed to drink in the train, you're not allowed to drink in the train. Was the fact they wouldn't even let me bring the cans on, and I was forced to bin them all.
Because we'd already went through, so it wasn't even a case of we could have like circled around the back, hit the beers, and it was literally
gutted.
They just gestured to the bin.
Gutted. And then we got fucked over by a hotel in Limerick.
That's right. Our hotel cancelled
cancelled our hotel because there was rugby on, and they knew they could resell the rooms at a better price.
It was the week.
Was it
before.
not a case of it was actually closed? It hadn't reopened. We heard loads of different.
We heard loads of stories. The truth is, it's clear they cancelled it because they know they could resell those rooms.
They got the government came on and put I think it was Ukrainian refugees in it, to be honest. So,
I'd heard that story as well,
because we passed it actually, and it was blatantly open. But that was a bit of a nightmare for us to try and rebook at a week's notice.
And then whenever we went to leave, Travel Lodge accused us of smoking in the room, and we're going to try to sting us for that. Which we don't smoke.
Yeah, like I was the only one that smoked, and I wasn't smoking at all.
And it was so your house, there's ash in the windowsill. So
it was a weekend.
So you didn't clean your weekend, the room before us then. Thanks.
It was a weekend of minor inconveniences, but as I say, like, I've just really good memories of that. Just even that pub you wanted to go to, and just sitting over the river, having a pint of Guinness, and everyone else there was a wee buzz about
Limerick,
it.
I loved Limerick. I thought it was lovely. It was the first time there, and I would like to go back.
Yeah, I'd be keen to go back to Siege, to be honest.
I would go back to Siege. I would like it to be the 2-day thing again. In order to go back, just to justify the travel down, because it is. It's a fair bit to go.
In saying that, because we weren't at the last one, there was another Siege at Halloween.
There was one,
I was supposed to go to it.
I've seen photos, and there were people crowd surfing in that.
Yeah,
that's a good point that I wanted someone to bring up. Yeah.
Maybe we just went a bad weekend, and maybe they've lightened up a wee bit, or maybe we saw photos of people crowd surfing, and they literally got thrown straight out. I don't know.
But the videos I seen specifically of Worn Out playing definitely seemed a wee bit rowdier than what was allowed the weekend we went.
Towards the end of Baylor's set, the time we were there was little bits of moshing, and like some people get up and crowd surf, but it was obviously towards the very end of the set kind of thing. So
if we get thrown out now, it doesn't matter.
It's quite as looking at the upstairs, the upstairs stage. I can't remember who it was playing on it. I was going through the photos, and I spied a hole in the roof.
Oh, I was just about to bring that up. Let's not name names.
Don't make me have to edit this.
It didn't happen. What are you talking about?
So spied a hole in the roof that somebody may have punched once upon a time.
I forgot all about that.
Yeah, it was good times. Good times. Yeah,
slightly over enthusiastic.
There's cracking festival, great setup, and here I think I really do want to get back.
It is brilliant what they're doing. As much as I have criticised the sort of anti-motion policies, I have a massive amount of respect for John putting on what
Big
he puts
time.
on.
And I mean, he was at that merch stand all weekend working his ass off. And
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But I think it's a really, really important part of the Irish metal scene, and I think the metal scene would be a lot worse off without it. So,
100%.
you know, I try to be as open as honest.
Yeah.
Criticise the bits that need to be criticised, but it's exceptional, and I'm jealous that we don't have something similar.
Yeah, no,
I was
absolutely.
supposed to go to the Halloween one, but the accommodation, like where I was staying, fell through at the last minute, so I was raging. But it meant that I could go to the gig in the Limelight. I think it was Mortal Backlash, Acid Age, and the Menace playing.
was that a good gig?
It was a good gig, very good gig. Turnout was a bit lower than expected, but I think there was another gig on in Voodoo in the same night, same time kind of thing.
I
can't
was
remember.
at the other gig.
Yeah.
I can't even remember who it was, but I was at the other gig.
I think that, talking about turnout, I think that's been something that I have noticed over the year. Like, whenever it started back, like you said, everyone was just so enthusiastic. COVID was over. Gigs were just absolutely rammed. I know it's like Metal to the Masses, like loads of them sold out. It was the best attendance James ever had, which is amazing. I definitely think it hasn't lasted. I think as the years went on, attendance has been dropping off. Obviously there's a lot of reasons for it, and we've had, unfortunately, you know, tickets haven't sold, gig tours are getting pulled.
It's an interesting question that'd be worth posing to the promoters, because they're the ones that are going to know the numbers and the things like that. I haven't been out a lot over the last couple of months. Like, I was meant to shoot a gig last night and realised it was the first touring band I would have shot since August. So yeah, I've been really slacking in terms of getting out, but as I said at the start, it's moving house, holidays, shit like that. Life sometimes gets in the way. But what have been the best gigs this year? Like, and I'm talking touring bands, local bands, anything, any massive highlights.
The one that really, there's a couple that really stick out in my head. Best, you know, sort of. The one that I was probably the most excited for, and the one that, you know, delivered in spades was Malevolence in April. That was, you know, I had a bloody good time. It was pretty poorly attended, to be quite honest.
The Malevolence show?
Yeah, I thought it was reasonably poorly attended. Like, you know, there was, but at the same time, there was room to breathe and do a bit of, you know, absolute shite.
It's a lot better attended than last time.
But so, like, you know, that was good. And then actually the other one that sticks out in my memory, and Mark was there. It was Based. They were just fucking insane. They were so good.
It's funny because I was thinking about, you know, gigs I've been to this year and things. Both of those were the two that kind of tied for my favorite show of the year. Like, you know, obviously not bands that you see at a festival, just like standalone shows. Because the thing about the Malevolence one, you know, the album had just been released, I think. And
No,
then,
I don't think it was.
or was it
wasn't
just
like that.
before?
It was
They'd released like a
With the
single or two,
singles,
like
yeah.
Higher Place and Unbroken Glass and stuff.
They had 3 singles out before the gig, because I had learned the fuck out of those lyrics.
Most of the crowd had as well. I was really surprised, because we went down to Dublin as well. I was surprised how many people knew the lyrics to all the new songs. It was great.
It was fantastic. And the other thing was support. So Guilt Trip, obviously I missed them at Bloodstock, which was disappointing, but they were really fucking good at that show. The other thing was getting to see Baylor again in such close proximity after the siege, and then got to see them again support Gatecreeper July, I think that was. But the bass show in particular, like, I know you two missed it because you had like other duties and stuff, but there was something about that night in terms of like the 3 support bands. I think it was Embrace Execution, Waterminds and Stranglewire, and then Bass themselves. And there was just something about that gig. The energy of it was unbelievable, like off the charts. The only show that I think came close to it in terms of the energy was the Gatecreeper show as well. Just like those where the entire room becomes a mosh pit.
Yeah, they were very similar.
Got it. I missed Gatecreeper. I can't even remember why I didn't go. I think I might have had the cold or some shit like that. But it was actually, I remember that, because I remember saying to someone, I'm not going to that gig because I have a really bad cold and I don't want to go down and make people sick. Because I
Probably
think
a
I've
wise choice, yeah.
a slightly refreshed attitude to going out with full of germs after the last, you know,
The
that
last load of it. That
thing
that
happened.
thing that happened.
Someone gave me a bit of grief about it. It's like, just go out and enjoy yourself. And it's like,
Yeah,
Good
you
content,
can't
good
consciously
content,
do it, yeah.
good conscious do that, you know.
But that based one, as you sort of rightly say, like honestly, just that it was one of those magical moments, just where everybody there and is having a good time.
Yeah,
And
there's like
based
synergy
on that
in the
kind
room.
of like based on that kind of like there's a cheek to them. Like there's a jovialness to them. And like every band member, and they were walking about. They didn't just go and hide. They were walking about the whole time, having a good time, watching everybody, all of the bands, and just the sort of the jovial attitude kind of they have spilled out into the crowd.
Yeah.
And it was class. I have really good memories of that one. Just fun.
See, I've talked a million times about that before. You know, if a band looks like they're having fun on stage,
Yeah.
the
It's
crowd
gonna
will start having
exactly.
fun. Like those bands that just, I don't care how serious your music is, you gotta look like you're enjoying it. You
Yeah.
can still have that sort of metal look about you, but look like you're having a good time. So many bands I say just look like they're fucking bored on stage, and that sounds like the perfect example of bands enjoying themselves. It becomes infectious and the crowd get into
I
it.
think the perfect, like you're talking about that sort of that, you know, quite serious music and, you know, etc. And the perfect example of that's Andy Clark.
I was see as you were about to make that point, I'm sitting thinking after he makes this point, I'm going to mention the crawling. Because no, they are the perfect example because they have an incredibly serious look on stage, right? But at the same time, you know, they're fucking loving it. You
Yeah.
know,
Oh,
and
right.
even Andy and
Stuart.
my mind had gone blank there. As stoic as Stuart is on stage, you know, it actually reminds me a wee bit
Just
of like
cracks that grin every now and again.
Yeah.
like the whole Tom Araya thing. Whenever Tom Araya is having a good Slayer gig, right, you know, he's got that serious I'm in a serious thrash band, you know, and a fucking serious face, but every now and again you just see that wee crack
Yeah.
of a smile.
Yeah.
You know, and I think Stuart's a wee bit like that as well, you know. You got what are you up on stage for if you're not enjoying yourself, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah, if you shouldn't be there otherwise, like, you know what I mean? If you're not
Yeah.
enjoying it, don't do it. You know, why would you put yourself through it?
The
Can I
crawling
name
just
a
on.
gig?
What's that?
Can I name a gig then?
Go for it.
Another one we were all at, Fever 333.
Oh, yeah.
Fuck yes.
Right before it all imploded. I'm very glad that we got to see that.
I was the last photographer to shoot them at a non-festival. I know that's me. It's a wee bit of mental gymnastics there to
Yeah.
make something
Yeah,
of it.
yeah.
You know what I mean? But before they broke up, they had played Belfast and then they done Reading, and then that iteration of the band split. So
I
that was
mean,
the
'cause
last band to shoot. And
that was unreal. And I mean, I've forgotten the guitarist's name. Like at the end, like he turned around and he just was like, "This was special, thank you," and it was. I mean, it was a really poorly attended gig, but everyone
Yeah.
who was there had an amazing time. I
Yeah.
think.
Like, bringing the drum kit like off stage, like maintaining a beat.
Yeah.
Like maintaining a beat, yet transporting a full fucking drum kit somehow, you know, from the stage into the crowd,
Yeah.
in front of the barrier, and then the three of them, you know, around the kit, just fucking going mental.
And
Yeah, it
everyone
was
just in a
fun.
full circle around them.
They're-
Like, it
they're a
was
band-
magical.
I've seen them get a bit of flack recently as being like a real shit band or a real. They seem to be a band that's not cool to like. I don't know why. I don't know if it's because of their politics.
I've heard people say they're like manufactured. I've heard people say that it's not genuine, but I don't.
I've
I don't
heard that. It feels.
get
It doesn't feel manufactured.
No.
You know, the energy they have on stage. It's what I want to say. I love seeing a band go fucking nuts on stage, and there's very few people that go as nuts as Jason Butler. Now,
Also,
I think he was toned down a wee bit on that night.
There was, but there was something else that, like, we're talking about genuine having fun, but there's also that genuine when you can tell they're appreciative when they're on stage and they appreciate the people who've come out, and they are grateful to be there and grateful for the love that they're getting from the crowd, and that, you know, like, I'd compare it to like whenever we first saw Slipknot headlining, they
Again,
were
exactly what I was
like,
thinking.
I remember Corey Taylor just being almost in tears, and then the last time we seen them at Hellfest, and it was just so going through the motions, and it was just that was gone. It was just
The first two times I seen Slipknot headline a festival, both times Corey was like, I can't believe we're here. I can't believe we're playing to this many people. This is incredible. We love every single one of you. This is amazing. I still don't believe it. It'll never sink in how big a deal this is. You know, it was just
Sonosphere type.
it was one time at Download, one time at Sonosphere. was seeing them at Knotfest/Hellfest in 2019, and all you got out of them was, "What is wrong with you, motherfuckers? I want to see you. I want to see you circle pit hard. I want to see you."
Although then I've realised,
and it was just like,
I suppose the flip side is I think Clown's daughter had passed away the week before or something. Maybe that might have. I don't know.
It just felt obnoxious.
It's a band going through the
compared to
motions.
how humble they used to be, and they just seem to lose that sort of personal touch that Slipknot used to have. Now I know it's not the same band as it used to be. I personally speaking don't think they've been the same band since Paul Gray died.
No.
I know there's not a whole lot you can do about that.
Yeah.
And then Joey Jordison left the band, and then it was like, I haven't enjoyed any of their output since then. To the point where even when I go back and listen to the early stuff, it's just kind of like, this is a band I'm not particularly interested in anymore. And I know people are like, fucking Slipknot, seriously, but I've good memories. I enjoyed seeing them a bunch of times. SSE Arena or Odyssey gig, really enjoyed. Those two festival headliners that I talked about, the Download and Sonosphere one.
I mean, especially that Sonosphere one was their first gig back after Paul's death.
Yeah, that was
very emotional and very brutal.
I think it was the Download one where it like drizzled really lightly during their whole set, and there was just something about that. It doesn't drizzle lightly at Download very often.
Yeah.
If it's gonna rain at Download, it does it fucking proper. But it was just kind of, there was something about it. It was really cool gig. I know we've went off a wee bit topic there. I don't really give a fuck. But circling back, a Fever 333 gig was superb. All three members of the band, I think, put on great fucking performances.
So much energy
as well. Just no support coming on and just like hitting a cold room. It's very hard to warm up a cold room as a headliner, and they just no support, bang straight in, and first song in, you're like, right, am I interested in this? And then the next thing is, it's like, I'm interested. I'm in for it.
That's the thing, because the second song in is when the guitarist jumped into the crowd. It's like you had no choice but to get into it at that point, and the circle pits were going, and it was a lot of fun. Like,
I remember seeing you, because he just stood in the middle of like the limelight and just was like, you were just standing there. Or he was standing there and you were just running around.
And I think that's the thing. It's like, I know Jason's keeping the band going. I know they have a lot of festival bookings next year, and I'm sure he'll get into talented musicians, but I don't think the band was his band. I think the band was special because of all of them.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's going to be the same.
Whenever he goes recruiting, I need a drummer and a guitarist. He doesn't just need a drummer and a guitarist. He needs a drummer and a guitarist with passion and energy, and that is a show they put on. It's not just a gig.
Did Fever not start off with Travis Barker on the drums?
So I heard that very recently.
Yeah, I only seen it recently. It was because actually Jason Butler put something on his Instagram there, and he was like, "This guy helped me start Fever."
I wonder, is that a wee sort of a wee wink,
a wee flash forward?
Could well be.
I don't know. Travis Barker's busy humping Kardashians,
There's a wee part of me that kind of goes, maybe he'll try to get Fever 333 back,
Blinker
another lineup, and can't quite work it out, so brings back Let Live instead.
Well, I mean, this is the thing. Let Live basically imploded in the exact same way, where pretty much I think the rest of the band went, we can't really work with you anymore, and kind of left, and then he went off, and I mean, they've been very discreet about what happened, but when the other two members basically put out a statement together and say, look, this isn't working, you kind of start to wonder what the
problem is.
There's a common factor there, and
yeah.
What about your favourite then for the year? What do you think?
There's I really wish I'd made a few notes, because there's something I want to talk about and I can't quite remember it. There was a small period, like the space of maybe 10 days, where there was 3 gigs that normally wouldn't interest me and I wouldn't want to go to, but I went to shoot them. It was 1984, Mayhem, and Napalm Death. All those 3 gigs happened in a very short period of time. They were all exceptionally well attended. I can't remember to be certain, but I think all 3 of them sold out. And it just, again, they're not bands that I'm particularly into. I love watching Napalm Death, but I admit to not really listening to them. That just felt like a really, really special week.
I had forgot about Napalm Death. That was an astonishing gig.
Yeah.
It was.
Napalm Death were fucking brilliant. The whole band are just exceptional to watch on stage. Barney is one of the best frontmen out of UK metal, if not worldwide metal. He's a fucking legend. Like, he's brilliant.
He really is.
Great to fucking shoot because he's so much fucking energy. I can't remember off the top of my head what you call the guy with all the big fuzzy hair and stuff. But again, we were talking earlier about guys that just look like they're having a blast on stage. Him, 100%.
Yep.
There was a warm-up band called Ocus. Apparently they got a new frontman recently, and it has completely transformed that band.
Yeah.
They were brilliant.
They were amazing.
Draconis done support with 1984 with Nicole being their new singer. That to me was another exceptional highlight.
I still have to say.
And then
Draconis.
Mayhem, again, not my thing, but such a theatrical performance and stuff. That little trilogy of gigs just felt special to me,
With another one there as well that we don't normally go to.
Was it at the same time?
Well, I suppose, I don't know, it was maybe about, I don't know, it might have been in around the same
I
time.
don't know what you're going to say.
But yeah, we went to one and we sort of turned around. All of that was me, Mark and Wayne, and we sort of turned around and we said, we should really go and see stuff outside of our comfort zone more often. Like,
Yeah.
So Blues Pills, like if you've been to any European festival or in every fucking one, but we went. It's like you're talking one of a serious powerhouse of a voice on the lead singer. She's incredible, but again, energy.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
And that but then before that you had like a singer songwriter who writes with or sort of performs with Devin Townsend, so that's Shay Amy Dorval, and I didn't expect to feel feelings.
Yeah.
I go out on Saturday afternoon, go to gigs all the time, and I come home, I get my kebab, I drink a beer, and I go to bed. I go out on Saturday and start to feel feelings. I'm very, very I'm all over the place. I'm like, what's happening here? Didn't expect that, and she was incredible. Like
100%. Like we go
Yeah.
out and it's usually either Satan's a good lad, or I'm fucking depressed and want to kill myself, or
I'm depressed, I want to kill you.
I'm really angry and I want to burn the world down. To go out and listen to something like, I don't even know why we went to that gig. I think we just happened to be in town having pints.
No, I consciously went to it. Like
I seem to remember someone somewhere said the tickets hadn't sold well for it, and it looked like it was going to be a bit of a washout. And I was kind of like, well, I'm in town, right? I've listened to a few of their tunes. I know they're a decent band. Fuck it, why not? A couple of pints, let's go around and see them.
Steve Vai was next door.
Next door, yeah.
Steve I was next door. I'm almost sure there was at least 2 more big gigs on that night that were like kind of
Yeah, 'cause
maybe
it was
not metal,
summertime.
but rock music and stuff. And I just thought, fucking let's go. And
I'm glad.
I thought they were exceptional, absolutely exceptional. I would love to see them again.
100%.
Performance on stage was absolutely brilliant. I have to confess, I have always been like super, super critical of anyone that sort of like, sees someone on stage and goes like, oh my god, she's gorgeous or whatever. I'm like, no, music, focus on the music. It's all about the music, but she is stunning. Like, and the performance on stage and stuff, you were just kind of like, sorry, Claire, but
That's fine. That's fine.
absolutely knocked it out of the park.
big voice.
Yeah.
Like big voice. Like sort of that sort of like, I'm kind of thinking it's kind of like that 70s, 80s sort of like just big operatic sort of, soulful voice.
Janis Joplin kind of stuff. Yeah. It was
I'm busting to see
outstanding.
them again. Because it's one of those things, like you're standing watching a gig and it's like, I'm loving this, but I don't know the songs. Would like to go see them again.
A bit more familiar and
Familiarise myself with the music and go see them again. So I can't help but think that was it James Loveday's show?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was.
I can't help but think that he would maybe be hesitant to book them again because
I don't think that
because it wasn't I've
think
lost my
Steve
words.
Vai
Completely lost my train of thought there.
Steve
Because it
Vai
wasn't
killed
well
it.
attended, but I think it was because it was so much on that night.
Yeah.
And also, everyone listens to us, and we're saying they're good. So they'll get a good
I was
crack
gonna
next
say,
time,
like,
you know?
everyone that was there, you could tell they were enjoying themselves. Like, some people were boogieing, big smiles, everything.
Yeah.
Like,
That's the thing. It was
definitely-
rock music you could dance to as well. That's what I really,
Yeah.
really liked. It was good stuff.
I think James has booked them before, and they've you know, it's been, you know, near sellout. And I think, you know, speaking to James was sort of, he was like, no, it's I think Steve Vai's probably killed it. You know,
I think it was just bad luck.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah,
bad
just
luck that
incidental.
night. And it happens, you know. Do you want to take a 5-minute breather then?
Yeah.
Yeah,
We'll
yeah.
come back to this. Spot on. Right, yeah, part 2, I guess. Gigs, we're still talking about gigs because there's still loads of good gigs that we've all attended and we haven't necessarily talked about.
Can I throw another one out?
Definitely, because I couldn't
I
think of any.
finally got to see Worn Out after missing them
Fuck yes,
constantly.
yes, absolutely.
Finally got to see them. Who was on that bill? Embrace Execution.
who were pretty sick as well, actually. Like that.
It was the first time I
was a
seen
really
them
good
as well
gig,
because I kept missing them. Who else? I can't remember. It was a good bill.
I'm
I drank
really-
way too much. We had been.
I was hammered.
We were round at like the trade market beforehand, drinking like 6% beers before we got round.
Oh yeah, that's the one I was there too for.
Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
I can't even think of who was playing that night. You're right, definitely. Embrace Education.
Execution. That's a completely different band.
I literally, just before I hit record, it was like, this isn't a shit show, this is going really well. And now it's a shit show. Embrace Execution. Bellwood played as well.
That's yes, because it was like loads of bands I haven't got to see yet.
Worn Out and Grave Path.
I was going to say, I
Path,
missed
that
that
was
one,
it,
but I
yeah.
think they were on the bill,
see?
yeah.
Yeah.
We're working again.
Yeah.
Here we go. Now we're starting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was a great gig actually.
It was a fucking great gig.
Grave Path was fucking brilliant too, you know, and that.
Yeah.
I just loved watching Iron Bands.
I'm pretty sure you got
Yeah.
twatted in the face that night as well.
That's just
Just like
standard.
last night.
Yeah. So, Mark, are you the only one that hasn't twatted Clair and face?
I think so.
Seems that way. Yeah, great to see them back up. I always thought that the first gig they played up here, pretty sure it was their first gig, was in the Speakeasy. It was a good night. Was a good night.
I was in England. I missed it.
I was a Crypt the Riff, I think, that night.
Speakeasy is a bit of a weird venue, and
It's no
I
longer
don't think
there,
it's
is
been.
It
is
doesn't
gone?
exist.
Yeah, I
It's
think it's gone.
the new building now.
Okay.
They opened it.
Fair enough. That'll explain why there aren't gigs happening there.
The Mandela is back, you see.
I know the Mandela's back, but
Yeah.
that's no. I'm talking about the Speakeasy around the Lisburn Road. There.
I know that's
Ah,
what
the
it
older
is.
one, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it felt like a wee bit of an awkward gig that night. But the gig in Voodoo, I mean, that's where all our hearts live, isn't it? You know,
Yeah.
Yeah.
local metal gigs work best in Voodoo. We've talked about that 100 times.
I don't want to see a gig outside of Voodoo.
Yeah.
that's like if it's a local metal gig, I just want to see it.
So I remember like going way back and going to like Limelight 2 every Saturday and just walking into that room and going, I'm sick of looking at this place. I've never felt that way about Voodoo. I've never stood in Voodoo going, I wish I was somewhere else.
The
It's
thing
just
is, with Voodoo, like we've talked about this before, the way that Voodoo is shaped and stuff, if you don't have a big crowd, you can still have a great gig.
Yeah.
Limelight
Yeah.
2, people come in, they grab the seats off the side and stuff, and then, or they just stand off. And there's been a hell of a lot of gigs, you know, we've been there and you're standing, and I'm like the only one standing on that wee dance floor. And then you feel compelled that you can't leave because you're the only one, the band is looking at you, and if you move,
Everything crumbled.
you're going to crush them. So you have to stand. Whereas in Voodoo, everyone, you know, they have to kind of come in and move forward, and it's much more of an atmosphere.
Yeah.
yeah.
We were talking there. I mean, even just we've always talked them up on this podcast, but Andy really is such a big, you know, reason as to why
Yeah.
Voodoo works so well.
Definitely.
And actually, just while we're on that, you know, him specifically, I want to talk about their just 7.5 tons of beard and sort of their return. So 2 gigs we've managed to see them in within 2 months, which fuck, that's unheard of. But they came back and like fuck, they were good. They
God, I
just
did miss that.
they just were so good. Like I was like,
That-
you need to play more, boys.
That was the night that was pitched as Uncultured Night, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was it.
Because it was on the same night as Culture Night, but then Culture
was
Night got cancelled, and the whole idea of Uncultured Night just kind of.
Yeah, it fell
I'm
away.
not talking about the gig. I'm just talking about the concept of calling it Uncultured Night. Kind of missed the mark because there was no Culture Night.
went over people's heads.
Yeah,
I think, you know.
yeah.
But, it was so good. They just fucking blew me away. To be honest, and I mean that was again, it was a good sort of, you know, line up there. And just to have 7.5 tons back and doing, you know, what they do, and just bring a wee bit of heft. Because they supported their 100-year-old man there as well. And who were fucking tremendous. The one thing about 100-year-old man is their light show and the lack of colour, and there's something intense about the use of white light and only white light.
I've seen 100-Year-Old Man once, and it was basically watching 4 silhouettes on stage.
Yeah.
Or maybe 5. I don't know how many's in the
Yeah,
band, but it becomes that entirely backlit gig where you've just got heads behind a keyboard, heads playing a guitar, and heads.
Just really atmospheric.
It is incredibly atmospheric.
They're very atmospheric. They're good. 100-Year-Old Man, I don't think are like a band, if you know what I mean. Like they're collective. Mm-hmm. So like people jump in, jump out. Like so, you know, they're not always the same people.
That's a bit like the Eagles of Death Metal were like that sort of thing.
Yeah, just
where
jump
it's
in,
not
jump out.
necessarily a strict set in stone lineup. It's just whoever wants to go on tour as this band.
Yeah,
Way you go, knock yourselves out.
Because your man Simon, from Crocodile and various other bands, who's singing for Bosk now, he was in them for a while, and like they just you know, I'm going to come along and play with you, so I did, no problem. So I think there was actually this time round there was 5 or 6 of them on stage, you know, as opposed to the 4 that was maybe there. But yeah, great gig that one.
One of my favourite gigs of the year, and it was actually less than 24 hours ago.
I was about to say, we haven't mentioned that yet. So we wouldn't be talking about anything else.
Last night, the 4 of us went and seen Bob Dylan, who I swear to fuck, if one more person asks me, is it a Bob Dylan cover band?
Yeah.
Every single time. Is it a tribute act? No, it's not. I don't think a lot of people realise this, but see within like the house and techno scene, for a long time there was this sort of trend of DJs naming themselves after like famous actors and stuff, but switching around a few syllables. So you'd have like Com Truise instead of Tom Cruise, and there's loads of examples of that. And I always thought that naming themselves Bob Dylan was a wee bit off the back of that trend. But it's for whenever I started going to see or started getting into Bob Dylan, I kept saying that like he's good, you should listen to him, only realising that Bob Dylan is the name of the act, and it's Bob and Bobby are the two people. Bob does vocals and raps, while Bobby does drums. But highly,
He said it the other way around last night.
No, they're both Bobby.
they're both,
He's like, I'm Bobby and I do vocals, and that's Bobby on the drums or something.
so they're both Bobby.
Yeah.
No, it's Bobby IE and Y.
Bobby
Bobby
BY.
with a Y.
Right,
Yeah.
get you. That's not confusing at all.
No, not at all. Not at all.
I don't know. But I should probably cut to the chase.
Sorry.
It's got a punk attitude, but to me, it's like sort of UK grime hip hop.
Yeah.
It's incredibly aggressive, which is where that punk element of it comes in, and they are one of the most politically charged bands that I listen to, and they have absolutely no fear of saying exactly how they feel about a lot of things. There's one of their songs that talks about, you know, you're not advertiser friendly, and it's like, well, you know, fuck that, we're not meant to be.
Exactly.
I can see, I've heard of people going to them and going to their gigs and kind of being, I wish they'd leave the politics out of it.
That was so funny, that clip in America.
I can't imagine what their music would be without the politics.
Yeah,
It is
exactly.
so fucking ingrained in what they do.
There's nothing. There would be nothing
There-
left.
Yeah,
It's intrinsic. Like.
it so is.
Yeah.
It so is. And I think if you went to one of their gigs and you were the sort of person that was tired of hearing this sort of narrative over and over again, it would be a big turn off. And I get that they're not for everyone. for me, I absolutely love them, and I do feel that some of the things they say and some of their politics is a wee bit button pushy. Like there's certain things they say, like, you know, the Queen killed Diana. I don't think they believe the Queen killed Diana. I think it's one of those things where it's kind of like pushing people's buttons and winding people up. But despite how, I know you'll get to talking a bit, I promise.
Are you sure?
Despite how politically charged and how aggressive and how angry the music is, there is something really, really fucking smiley and enjoyable, and everyone's having a fucking good time at the shows, despite the fact that we're talking about
big issues.
Yeah.
big issues like, you know,
Institutional
like
racism,
poverty,
kids
fascism.
getting murdered on the way home, fascism, you fucking name it. It's all in there, but it's wrapped up in we still love music and we're still out to have a good time.
Yeah.
Which is odd, like it's kind of at odds with itself. I think their music's brilliant. I think on stage it's just something to behold, and I think they're absolutely fucking brilliant. I'm gonna let someone else speak.
I will say I'm slightly torn because it is just a vocalist and a drummer, and the rest of it's all a backing track.
Yeah.
Part of me wishes that there was someone doing guitar and stuff, but then at the same time, the band is so them too that I do worry that, you know, bringing someone else in, I'm torn.
It's a hard fit. It's a hard fit to get someone.
And I think
you know
the chemistry that they have together is just so complete, and they have so much charisma between the two of them
And the
as well.
banter back and forth, and
yeah.
Because even drummer Bobby, you know, can articulate so much without even speaking as well, like his smiles and everything, and just it was a great gig. My knee is still sore. I was wearing my slippy shoes in the mosh pit like twice.
And I mean, it was
Slippy shoes in the mosh pit's the name of your new band.
because the other thing was like earlier you'd commented on one of the Outbreaks posts about, you know, Bob Dylan would be great for this because next year they've moved much more into like hip hop and stuff. And I had sort of joked going, I'm not quite sure how they deal with, you know, people stage diving and getting up on stage. And they ended the last night with basically everyone up on the stage.
Yeah.
And they'd had a couple of stage divers before then, and then I got the stage of because you got up.
Yeah.
We were standing going, I think that stage is about to collapse. Because it was started, there was a lot of people, and it was like, I think they'll cope with Outbreak absolutely perfectly. I don't think they would have any issues.
The humour within the show as well, because like within their music there's this, they're from England, that they have grown up in England, but they have this sort of intrinsic hatred towards England. And I can totally
I would say it's
understand
not necessarily it's the British, it's like the whole British Empire and stuff, but they're still proud of like being from London.
Yeah.
So they made that joke about the irony of playing a venue actually called the Empire, you know,
with the red, white, and blue lights.
Yeah.
And it was they come onto the stage and first song out.
That was hilarious.
It's called, you know,
We Live Here.
No, I heard you want your country back.
That's
and they said we have to preface this with, we're not talking about Ireland. We're talking about where we're from, you know. You know, and I thought that was quite funny because like that distinguishing sort of element, and like it was done with quite a wry smile and a cheekiness to it.
Everything. I think that's part. There is a real cheekiness to them.
But there was also in Northern Ireland you do get a lot of bands come over and then they try to touch on the politics and they just miss the mark by a fucking mile, and they just don't get it. But like they were talking like they were hanging out with Kneecap that got like and they understood. And, you know, there was an understanding of the history and talking about it. And it wasn't just lip service. And it was a case of, you know, we want to even learn more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that. And then being able to tie that into their own experiences as well of, you know, the Brits.
I think without wanting to dive too much into the politics of it, I think if you want to learn more, you got to hang about with a more diverse crowd, if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I think you've got to hang about with people on all extremes. In a roundabout way. You've got
Although,
to see it from all sides.
I think there's people from all extremes that it isn't healthy to listen to, so it's kind of it's a difficult one.
That just describes Northern Ireland for the last
definitely
70 years. Difficult.
This relationship status, it's complicated.
I think the way they feel about Britain's the way I've always felt about Northern Ireland, to be honest. So, but Yeah, I don't want to dwell too much on politics.
No,
This is
right.
it's a talking podcast. It's not a Slugger O'Toole, so we'll maybe draw a wee line in the sand there. Well, one thing I will say is I know they played here before earlier in the year. There's not many bands. In my head, I always think to myself, there's not many bands that come to Northern Ireland. In truth, there is lots of bands that come to Northern Ireland, but we don't get the same amount of tours that the likes of England would get. So there's always that perception, that belief in your head that bands don't come here. I've heard people say to me, no one comes to Northern Ireland, yet we're sitting talking about literally dozens of bands that have come to Northern Ireland this year. But they came earlier this year. We got Bob Villain in Belfast
April,
twice in the 1 year.
I think it
April.
was April.
What was that, 7 months ago?
Yeah.
You know, fucking brilliant that they came. They played the Deer's Head. I don't think any of us were there that night because
It was a Metal to Masses.
Yeah.
Metal to the Masses that night. But the fact that they came straight back and they clearly played to a bigger audience because it was a bigger venue. I was
Yeah,
worried
that's
there
such a
wasn't going
jump.
to be much of a turnout. I was also worried when I seen the turnout. I know this is really judgy of me, but I'll admit that sometimes I'm judgy. I looked around the crowd and I kind of went, these people are not going to pop off the Bob Villain. And I couldn't have been more wrong.
Yeah.
Couldn't have been more wrong. Everyone
From the
went nuts.
opening moment to the end, it
Yeah.
did not stop.
There was
And
so
it was a-
much jumping as well.
But it was a really well behaved because I was sort of on the edge of the pit, and it was one of
It
those
was-
safe ones. You know, it wasn't, people weren't getting carried away. There was no surges.
There's a lot of jumping
and it was
about,
just
a lot of
fun.
people knowing the lyrics and singing the lyrics. There was one, I can't remember the girl's name, but it's a friend of yours, Claire's, and she was up on like the sort of balcony
Tammy?
beside the stage, Tammy. I kept looking up. She knew all the words to all the songs, and I was really impressed that like, because sometimes you think, I mean, Bob Villain, there's no doubt about. Oh, fuck no, I'm not going to go down that train of thought.
No.
But it was just amazing that people were so into it and really enjoyed it. I was going to say I had a brilliant night. I actually didn't have a brilliant night. There was a couple of things that fucked me off that night that I'm not going to get into.
Yeah.
But while Bob Villain was on stage and I was in the crowd, I was having an absolutely fantastic time.
And off stage as well. I think it was the first song.
Yeah.
He jumped into the crowd and was just in there, you know.
And Grolsch beer is still a thing, so
Yes.
there you go. We fucking knew that.
Yeah, we had a really good time last night, and sort of as Claire says, like the energy and the stuff in the crowd was good, and the most dangerous part of the mosh pit was probably me in it because I elbowed you.
You did.
You know, so they seemed, you could tell that they enjoyed that as well. I think, you know, that crowd and sort of, you know, they're coming off the back of a US tour, pretty big US tour, but you know, certainly where there was a few incidents happened actually, but yeah, they enjoyed it. The crowd enjoyed it, and I think that's they had that recipe and that sort of nice joining of and the recipe for the perfect gig, really.
Yeah.
I mean, I might be wrong, but I mean, like, we seen, as I think we've said, we seen them earlier at Boomtown, and we've seen them twice in the one day. On first time was like on the main stage with like thousands of people watching, and then later in the wee small stage. And I got the impression they enjoyed the smaller one more, maybe because I did. But I think they're on the verge that they have grown so much in the last year, and I think it happens to a lot of bands. You know, they like playing those small crowds, where, you know, you've got that small crowd and they get into it and everyone's involved. And I think they're on the verge of moving a bit beyond that.
Bets on the table right now. Next time they come back, Limelight 1 and Shine Up Brooklyn.
I'd say that they're very much on the verge of, for me, they're about to explode. And the last album, what was it, The Price of Life, is that what it was called? So that, you know, that album came out, and that's kind of what has made them get to the level they're currently at. But I think actually turning off the back of that album, they're just getting bigger.
I actually had a conversation last night with some friends, and it's like, you know, they're so deservedly incredibly proud of the fact that their last album was they wrote it, produced it, released it, promoted it, and it's the first act they've done that and got top 20.
Yeah, it's DIY.
Going forward, they're getting bigger. Will they be able to maintain DIY ethos?
I think there's
You're going to get to a stage where when
especially
you
with-
get bigger, you start needing to maybe bring people in. And And I think there's the fear of RB selling out,
I think
or
that's fair.
I think their stubbornness won't let them.
it'll be interesting to see. But I would hate. I mean, if they were to turn around and say, "Okay, look, we'll work with people to produce this and stuff," and I would hate them people to turn around and call them sellouts or whatever, because I don't think.
I know for a fact they're working with PR companies, so I think they might already have made those decisions. I'm going to take another break because I'm wiggling like a madman.